Okay, Joe. All right. Okay. We're ready? Yeah. Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Miami Gardens Live Healthy Miami Gardens Classic Experts Forum. My name is Neki Mohan. I'm about to be your moderator for this evening. Tonight we'll share important information about COVID-19, where we are more than a year later, and where do we go from here. If you think about any questions you may have, please put them in the chat. Many of you are joining us via Facebook Live. Please submit those questions, and you can also voice your concerns there as well, and we'll get to it by the end of the event. We look forward to having a very interactive evening and a valuable exchange of information. First up, though, I'd like to invite Mayor Rodney Harris to come on and talk to us. He has been serving the City of Miami Gardens since 2012 and is currently the city's third mayor since its inception in 2003. Nearly all of his adult career has been in government and youth outreach as the senior juvenile probation officer for the state of Florida. Mayor Harris has been focused on helping youth make better decisions and be productive members of their community. He is noted as one of the founders of the Department of Juvenile Justice's Success Through Empowerment Program, also known as STEP. This mentoring program targets both at-risk youth and youth who have had contact with the criminal justice system. Mayor Harris.
Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate that warm introduction. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rodney Harris, the Mayor of Miami Gardens, this beautiful city. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for being here with us today. I'm very proud of Live Healthy Miami Gardens for setting this beautiful discussion up.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, we have a lot of great people joining us this evening. I'm going to introduce you to our panel. I'd like to recognize Councilman Robert Stevens III. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Come on, audience, you can do better than that. That's right. All right. We're moving past this pandemic, but we are still in it. So that's why we have tonight's panel. Let me introduce you to tonight's Live Healthy Miami Gardens panel. First up, the Vice Mayor of Miami Gardens, Reggie Leon. Vice Mayor Leon is a community activist, a leader, and a proud graduate of Florida Memorial University, where he earned a degree in criminal justice. That's right. See, we got him going. His work includes serving as a board member for Florida Youth Football League, serving on the board of directors for the Elderly Housing Development and Operations Corporation, and serving on the executive cabinet of the 100 Black Men of South Florida. Professionally, he has been employed with UPS in management for 20 years. He also serves as the co-chair for the Florida district of the UPS African American Business Resource Group. He lives by the motto, "It always seems impossible until it's done," and that's a quote by Nelson Mandela. Vice Mayor Leon.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So briefly, some of the things that we did when it came to COVID-19 in the City of Miami Gardens, thank our mayor, Councilman Stevens, and the rest of the council. I kind of chaired the initiative to make sure that we're able to get our senior citizens vaccinated. We had sites here, we had Dolphin Stadium, that was a primary vaccine site. We understood that there was some hesitancy based on this vaccine, people that look like you and I. So what we did is we reached out to Jessie Trice and Tony's here. Let's give Tony a hand from Jessie Trice. Let me back up a little. So we reached out to the state and we wanted to get our seniors. We knew all of them didn't have transportation. In my district alone, we have 2 55 and older communities. And a lot of them just walk through their communities, they don't have transportation. So we coordinated with Academy Bus Services. We were able to bus our seniors, we picked them up, we bused them to get both shots. What happened was the Dolphin Stadium couldn't accommodate us because they only assumed that people who wanted to get vaccinated had a car. They didn't take into consideration that in this community, we had some people that didn't have transportation. So we reached out to Jessie Trice and Tony was phenomenal we coordinated this project. We had bus loads of senior citizens coming in to Jessie Trice. Logistics is my thing, so I've been with UPS for 20 years, so I made sure logistically it was set up to where we picked up these senior citizens throughout Miami Gardens. And we took them to get their first shot, second shot. Then next thing you know, I get a phone call, some senior citizens had created their own list. They're like, you need to come and get us. Because they saw the other ones get shot and said that they were okay. So they took it upon themselves in those same developments and started putting their own list and told me that I need to come pick them up. So we did just that, we picked them up. So we realized that there's still a lot of work to do, and Jessie Trice was limited to the number of shots that they can do a day, spreading out throughout their network. So we reached out to World Safe First. And it's a Black-owned group, Black doctors, Black nurses, all Black everything, as Jeezy would say. And so they helped facilitate us getting our own facility right here in Miami Gardens so that we were able to move more people through there. They were doing COVID testing and COVID vaccine. They were offering all 3 shots. And so we had that flexibility of being vaccinated by people that look like us. From Jessie Trice Center down to World Safe, where doctors who look like us can come and have conversations with us and understood what we were going through and understood our hesitancy. And so we were very successful at getting this community vaccinated for those that wanted. So that's how we got to this point. Thank you.
Got it?
Yeah.
Look what Brown can do for you. Thank you, Mayor Leon. I'm sure that's not the first time you've heard that. Thank you so much. I want to introduce you to Tamara LaBruce from Live Healthy Miami Gardens. She is the program director for Live Healthy Miami Gardens and has been with them since the inception in 2014. She has over 25 years of management experience in social, human service, and governmental settings. Tamara excels in bridging partnerships that bring grassroots leaders together with professionals and policymakers to improve the communities they serve. Her professional experience includes 7 years as vice president with Strategic Partners, and prior to that, Tamara worked with the Switchboard of Miami, a nonprofit that specializes in information referral, crisis intervention, suicide prevention, and clinical services for at-risk youth and their families. She is also double Barry University alumnus with a Bachelor of Science degree in Public Administration and a Master of Science in Management. Ms. LaBruce.
Thank you so much, Neki. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. As you mentioned, I'm Tamara LaBruce, and I have the honor of serving as the city's Live Healthy Miami Gardens director. Live Healthy Miami Gardens is a health initiative started in 2014 by the city of Miami Gardens through a multi-year grant from the Health Foundation of South Florida, who is still supporting our initiative. With research indicating that where we live has dramatic effects on our health, Live Healthy Miami Gardens recognize the need for greater emphasis on making neighborhoods strengthen partnerships with its stakeholders and grow their capacity to collaboratively plan and collectively lead strategies to make Miami Gardens a healthier place to live, work, and play. And that is exactly what we've been doing since 2014. We are a collective impact initiative that is now backed by 46 coalition member organizations and 110 individuals working together to improve the health and life outcomes of people who live in Miami Gardens. Our overarching intent is to produce fundamental community-wide changes that materially improve the health and quality of life of city residents. We focus on 5 different health impact areas: alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, healthy eating and improved nutrition, mental health, physical activity, and primary health care. Under the primary health care work, we have been funded by the CDC and the Health Foundation of South Florida to address COVID-19 and to implement strategies to support vaccination coverage for racial and ethnic groups in Miami Gardens experiencing disparities. Preventing racial disparities in the uptake of COVID-19 is an important aspect to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 in our community. We all know that very often people who look like us often do not have access to the health care that they need. And so this work has really been about driving the point about the importance of getting vaccinated and making sure that our individual residents and business owners and other stakeholders have access to the vaccine. We could not have done this work alone. Under the leadership of the City of Miami Gardens, we've collaborated with several organizations who I would like to acknowledge tonight. Jessie Trice Community Health System, Center for Family and Child Enrichment, UHI Community Care Clinic, St. Thomas University, Florida Memorial University. Our work has also been supported on the communication side by MD Marketing Network. And the research component, which you'll hear a little bit about in a few minutes from our Dr. Williams, have been supported by QQ Research Consultants. Collectively, we have been working to implement community-focused COVID-19 strategies to help make sure that our community is healthy. The I Did It campaign, which you'll learn a little bit more about, is the next phase of our work. I would like to thank the City of Miami Gardens for their leadership, for their collaboration, and for their support of this work, and also like the partners that I've just named for working so hard and making sure that our community remains healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the good work you continue to do. Hopefully out of this pandemic, we'll all be healthier, and that's the goal, right? What we've all learned is that health is our wealth. Well, up next, it's Dr. Sandra Williams from QQ Research. She is the CEO of QQ Research Consultants, the only minority and women-owned research and evaluation firm here in South Florida. She's the lead evaluator on a number of federally funded programs and has expertise in conducting random assignment and quasi-experimental design program evaluation studies. She has monitored and evaluated over 100 projects in which she has provided monitoring reports and coaching to bring about program improvements. Dr. Williams holds a master's degree in developmental psychology from Columbia University and a doctorate in the same field from Florida Atlantic University. Dr. Williams.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and to talk about this important work that we're doing here in Miami Gardens. So as you guys heard, the vaccine project, our goal was really to hear from Miami Garden residents. We wanted to hear, why are folks hesitant about taking the vaccine? What are their fears, their concerns, their thoughts? We really wanted to gather the voices and to be able to look at the data and see how we could use information towards implementation. And so with the help and great work of Dr. Grace, from St. Thomas University and Dr. Max Orzoli from Fordham Memorial College. We had the opportunity to work with them, and they did an amazing job going out in the community, speaking to folks. And some of you folks who are out there probably participated in the focus group or conducted or participated in the survey administration, so we thank you. And so we looked at the data, and some of the findings we were a little surprised about. There were others that we weren't so surprised about, right? When you think about how folks feel about getting vaccinated, and particularly within the Black community, we know that there is some mistrust as it relates to health organizations. And so that was one of our findings, is that many folks didn't want to get vaccinated because there was still some mistrust. And historically, we know where some of that mistrust comes from. And so part of the thought was, well, how can we think about our campaigning? How can we demystify some of the misinformation that's out there around COVID vaccine? So that was one recommendation, to think about how we could help folks really understand what happens when you take the vaccine, that it is safe, and that hundreds of folks have taken the vaccine. Another finding, which I'm not surprised, especially after hearing the work the Vice Mayor just spoke about as it relates to getting senior citizens to get vaccinated, right? So at the beginning, when this all started, when COVID came out, if you guys remember, they were focused on the elderly population, not so much, we wanted to make sure that they were taken care of, that they were vaccinated. What we found is that the younger folks, 18 to 34, they're not excited about getting vaccinated, right? I'm sure many of you may know folks who are within that age group that perhaps are not getting vaccinated or don't plan to get vaccinated. So another thought is, how can we reach this population and explain to them that getting vaccinated is good for yourself, but it's also good for your loved ones, right? So we're thinking about how can we target that population, share this message with them about getting vaccinated, increase our younger residents in Miami Gardens to get vaccinated. Another finding that we weren't too surprised about is, given that Miami Gardens and within the Black community, we all know that many are a part of faith organizations, right? And so we found that some folks felt that they didn't need to get vaccinated because they wanted to lean more on their faith. So one of the recommendations we have is, how can our churches, our pastors, our reverends work together with Healthy Miami Gardens and other experts here in Miami Gardens to work with the faith community to kind of also explain that in addition to leaning on your faith, you can take the vaccine, it is safe. And so one of the recommendations we have is, how do we work with our faith community? And so many of you probably heard about the Take Your Loved One to the Doctor campaign, which is also led by Live Healthy Miami Gardens. And so we were thinking about, how can we, in addition to taking a loved one to the doctor, maybe you can take a loved one to get vaccinated. And so myself and some of my other family members, we decided, hey, I'm getting vaccinated. Who can we fill in the car to come along with us to get vaccinated? So that's another recommendation that we have. And so I think that those are the main topics that came out of the study. So we do want to hear from some folks in terms of how can we continue this work in making sure that Miami Gardens is a healthy community as Live Healthy Miami Gardens continues to increase itself. Thank you.
Awesome. You mean you can't trick them and say we're going all out to eat and then show up at the health center? I mean, I don't know if they'd like that very much, but it might be effective. Get them happy and fed, and then say, hey, now let's go get a vaccine. All right, now we have some questions that we're gonna have for our panel over there. You have access to the mic? All right, do we have any questions? Remember, folks watching, this is your discussion. We want to have a very interactive conversation. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and they will get them to me quickly. All right, let's start off, and I'm gonna go to Dr. Williams. So many people are hesitant about taking the vaccine. What research is out there about the negative effects of the vaccine that we know?
So what we do know is that more folks who are taking the vaccine, we haven't seen hundreds of folks who are in a worse condition, that we know that the vaccine is helping people to stay out of the hospital and to recover. So some of the findings that we found is we're seeing this nationwide in terms of how people are feeling about the vaccine, but we do know that right now, the goal, I think with Biden was 70%.
By July 4th.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we are in terms of Miami Gardens, but we're aiming to increase that number so that we can reach that goal.
And young people have to be really conscious of that, because even if grandma's vaccinated and you're not vaccinated, they can still spread it to them. Because the vaccine is not 100%, but it'll keep you from being hospitalized, but they can still transmit it.
And what we found when speaking with our elderly population within Miami Gardens, they're saying, I need you to help me to get my grandson and my granddaughter to get vaccinated because they don't want to get vaccinated. And so we actually are leading on our older folks to encourage and to motivate the younger folks to go out there and get vaccinated.
Yeah, all great information. What was the catalyst behind commissioning all the research? Because it was a scramble when once COVID happened to get all of the research in the community. Let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, the catalyst in particular for the research that we were doing was really around how can we find out what are some reasons that folks are hesitant about getting vaccinated, so that as Live Healthy Miami Gardens, thinking about strategies and implementation for programming, we can take into account some of the fears and concerns and around that.
Okay. For Tamara, based on any of the research, what recommendations did they have for the city?
Yeah. So one thing that I'd like to add to what Dr. Williams mentioned is the fact that the research project is really meant to inform the campaign. We didn't want to take anything for granted and do the same old thing. We wanted to learn about the specific concerns, questions that our community was expressing to us, and we wanted to shape a campaign tailored around those specific concerns and those specific needs. And that's exactly what this next phase of the work will do. We are partnering with Miami-Dade County. We will be mirroring what the county is doing at the county level around the I Did It campaign, but we will be pulling out some strategies that are specific to our community based on what they said. So when Dr. Williams spoke a little bit ago about the very specific things that we learned in terms of why our elderly was concerned about taking the vaccine versus why our young people are hesitant, we're going to be rolling out a campaign that is specific to those concerns. I don't want to give it all away because we're going to be unveiling it tonight, and I'm really proud of what we've put together so far. But the idea is to really talk to our community in a voice, using language and addressing their specific concerns in a way that will speak to them and will influence them to get the campaign. One other thing that I like to say is that our community have a lot of people in it that are very committed to this work, and they're community influencers. So a huge part of our campaign is using those community voices, people from our churches, from our schools, from our park system, from our city, hall system, from our local health departments, folks who have a voice and who are connected to other stakeholders in our community, and having them help us to get the word out about why they should be vaccinated.
That's exciting. I mean, this work is going to change the way we look at healthcare in our community going forward from now. So if there's any blessing in the pandemic, at least, more research to that. Let me invite our doctors up. We have doctors to start making their way to the stage. I'm going to introduce Dr. Joyce Lawrence from Jessie Trice Health System. From that's right. Thank you very much. Dr. Lawrence is devoted to serving underserved communities who are faced with adverse social determinants. She has held a variety of leadership positions at the University of Miami Department of Family Medicine and the Office of Community Affairs. Most recently, she was the medical director of the Dr. John T. McDonald Foundation School of Health Initiative. And she provided hands-on leadership to the Jefferson Reeves Family Health Center, as well as being the preceptor for the University of Miami Family Medicine residents. She's now serving as the Chief Medical Officer for the Jessie Trice Community Health System. Her overall goal is to reduce healthcare disparities and adverse social determinants of health by bringing much-needed current and innovative strategies and tools to the population served by Jessie Trice. Dr. Lawrence.
Good evening. Good evening.
You're gonna come to the podium.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. We are at such a critical junction now with addressing COVID-19 within our community. We have heard our state positivity rate is at 3.3%, about the lowest rate yet. But I don't want people to be misled. People are still getting COVID and people are still dying from COVID. The vaccine works. Proof is in our 65 and older population. They have the highest vaccination rate at 83%, and as a result, they have the lowest positivity rate for COVID. And yes, the majority of the state of Florida is vaccinated. But here's what we need to think about. The Black population accounts for only 21% of those vaccinated. And we all know by now that the Black and Hispanic population suffer the most from COVID. So why are we not the group with the highest vaccination rates? All persons, including pregnant females and those with underlying conditions, are eligible for the vaccine, except in the rare circumstances where there's a history of allergy to prior dose of the vaccine or allergy to any component of the vaccine. While data is limited in some groups, persons with weakened immune systems, autoimmune conditions, a history of Bell's palsy, or Guillain-Barré syndrome may all get the vaccine. For our pregnant individuals, the COVID-19 vaccine has been deemed safe to receive during pregnancy. Pregnant people are more likely to get severely ill with COVID compared to non-pregnant persons. And pregnant people with COVID are also at increased risk for preterm births. Reports have shown that breastfeeding people who have received the messenger RNA COVID vaccines, as Moderna and Pfizer, have antibodies in their breast milk, which could help protect their babies. To support ongoing review, all pregnant persons may participate in CDC Be Safe programs. These are programs where pregnant individuals are able to receive personalized health check-ins after they receive the vaccine. There remains concern about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, a vector vaccine, but I want to point out that there are 6 reports of vaccine-induced immune thrombocytopenia following 6.8 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that have been given. That's only 6 and 6.8 million. That's rare. All of these people were women between the ages of 18 and 48. So yes, women younger than 50 years old should be especially aware of this rare complication with blood clots after vaccination. But remember, there are 2 other vaccines for which this risk is not associated. And last, the best part of being vaccinated is being able to resume your activities 2 weeks after full vaccination. You will need to continue wearing masks in places of business that call for this. You get to travel in the US and not have to be tested before or after travel. And you don't have to self-quarantine after travel. And if you've been around someone who has COVID-19, you may not need to stay away from others or get tested unless you have symptoms. So again, thank you. I'm looking forward to your questions, and please get the vaccine. Consider it safe.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Next up, Dr. Michelle Kirwan is a board-certified pediatrician and fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics. She completed her undergraduate degree in psychology at Washington University in St. Louis and later medical school at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. After receiving her medical degree, she went on to complete her pediatric residency at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. Since March of 2013, she has been serving as the Chief Medical Officer and Pediatrician at the Center for Family and Child Enrichment, Inc., a federally qualified health center here in Miami Gardens. Dr. Kirwan?
Thank you, and good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me. I'm, as she mentioned, a pediatrician, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the why for children and the safety for children, and I'm sure there'll be some questions afterwards. As you know, the age has been dropped to 12 years old and up to be included in the Pfizer vaccine. Moderna, Johnson & Johnson are just behind. But right now, 12 and up can get the Pfizer vaccine. One of the questions that I'm commonly asked are what are the side effects for children and if they're any different? And they really are not very different from what adults have. The one thing with all vaccines that we are concerned about with children, or especially teenagers, is what we call syncope or fainting after getting any vaccine. And it's no different with the COVID vaccine. So that is a possibility. Typically they recover in a few seconds and they're fine. The rest of the side effect profile remains the same as adults: pain, swelling in the arm, redness, tenderness, fever, chills, nausea, muscle aches, fatigue. Same thing in children that we would expect. Typically those symptoms abate within 1 to 2 days, maybe sometimes going into a third day. But typically they will resolve after that. And the treatment is the same. If you need an antipyretic and anti-fever medication, you can take that. Fluids, exercising the arm, and just getting rest and wearing appropriate clothing for your temperature. And the why is the same as for adults. Why and with children, I think the why is a little bit stronger, right? So most of adults, or well, many adults, I should say, across the country are getting vaccinated. I think come winter, we will be lagging behind with children, teens and young children being vaccinated because their vaccines are being rolled out later. And COVID is somewhat of a seasonal vaccine. If you look at the trends, it was high in March. It trended downwards through the summer, even though there was a little peak in July, and trended back upwards. And then you're seeing that same trend this year. So it does seem to be a winter virus to some degree. And come this winter, we may not have vaccinated as many children as we vaccinated adults. So that's my concern, why we need to start really jump on getting the 12-year-olds vaccinated and up. And then as the younger ones, they roll out the vaccine for those, we really need to be mindful that going into the winter, this could become problematic. And the why remains the same, just children can get sick. There was a study with 200 young, I think it was 12 to 17 years old children, and of those 200, almost a third of them were admitted to the ICU, and 5% required mechanical ventilation. So children can get sick, they can have long-term complications, and they can die from COVID, although they do overall tend to do better than adults. We don't want them transmitting it. They can be asymptomatic, transmit it to adults, transmit it to vulnerable people. And as with everybody, that the virus can mutate within an individual. So we want to get everybody vaccinated so we're not getting more aggressive forms of the virus. And the fear of getting the vaccine for children is normal. Parents, it's somebody else that they're making a decision for. And your child might be healthy, and then introducing a biological agent might be a little, concerning for you. But overall, the vaccine is safe. Yes, there's a risk with anything. There can be side effects. There can be rare adverse, side effects, and we can talk about myocarditis. I'm sure there'll be a question about that in the question segment. But those things are rare. So I look forward to your questions as well, and thank you for having me. And please do get vaccinated, as Dr. Lawrence said.
Thank you, Dr. Kirwan. Next up is Dr. Hussein Anan, who is a double board certified doctor in primary care and sports medicine with a passion for holistic and integrative medicine. He believes that health and well-being come from within, and that a healthy mind and spirit are the key to a healthy body and positive attitude in life. Dr. Anan moved to New York City after graduating from medical school in Egypt in 2010 to pursue a career in the United States that started by working in a medical practice as an assistant and later joining a research team in New York, Presbyterian Weill Cornell Hospital, Columbia University. He obtained his family medicine residency training at the Sacred Heart Hospital, St. Luke's University in Pennsylvania, followed by a sports medicine fellowship training at the Henry Ford Hospital, Wayne State University Hospital in Detroit, providing medical care for many professional and collegiate sports teams. Dr. Anan, welcome.
Thank you, everybody, tonight. came here actually to talk about millennials and COVID vaccine. And one thing I want to say, I think millennials like to understand why, the questioning, and I think that's an amazing thing to have, is questioning why. I want to understand why I do this or why I shouldn't do that. So I want to explain just briefly the virus is basically. So the virus basically is stranded DNA or RNA covered by protein code. And what it does is that it finds a host cell, infects the body, and that DNA or RNA gets into the cell, takes over the replication process. Basically inserts itself into the gene of the DNA of the host. And replicates that starts the whole replication process and makes baby cells, basically other copies of the cell. So that's basically just briefly what happens. But what an antivirus is, or basically just like a computer's antivirus, what a vaccine is basically the antivirus. And the main thing is that the body, our body, is just like military. It has a defense mechanism. So, which means it protects the body or the country from anything coming from outside, a stranger. And that's exactly what happens. And how the immune system develops afterwards is that you have this, attack happening that you can either develop your immune system through primary immunity, which happens right away, or you can be prepared for it afterwards. So that's how we develop the memory cells, the IgG, which is basically being prepared for any attack in the future. So you actually do better this time, or next time you do better with fighting it or stopping the infection. So when you take the vaccine, you're basically training your soldiers, you're training your troops ahead of time to be prepared for that attack if it ever happens. And in that case, your chances of winning the fight is actually higher because you know what your enemy looks like or what they're going to use that attack or what it's like. So you basically have a better idea, you prepared, so your damages are less, your long-term effect is less, and you're basically winning the game faster. So that's basically what it is. So, that the idea behind the vaccine is basically preparing your immune cells to have that immunity. So when you have it, we wouldn't say that vaccine actually is going to stop or prevent infection. Same like flu, for example. It doesn't say, it's like it decreases the risk for infection. It decreases the risk for complications if you get the infection. So even though when you get the vaccine, you still wonder, why do I still have the infection? Do I get it? The vaccine didn't work. Actually, no, that vaccine did work. But the duration of the infection is less. Instead of having it for 2 weeks, you have it for 10 days. The severity of it as well is less. So instead of having severe, having to be hospitalized, or having to be intubated or having any complications like that, it actually decreases that. It becomes body aches or fever or chills or loss of taste or smell for a few days, but sometimes you don't even know that you have it. And that's the difference, is that your body is prepared for it in a better shape. So, and simply, I just wanted to simplify that. So thank you very much. And,
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anan. All right, our first question comes from Ingrid Moss from online. What initiatives will be implemented to vaccinate youth and young adults in Miami Gardens? Anyone want to take that question?
Well, this summer, the organization Jessie Trice that I work for, we will be hosting vaccine fairs at Miami Northwestern Senior High, hoping that we will attract the youth and get them prepared for entering school in the fall. Right now, on a daily basis, we are offering the vaccine at our community sites, as well as a drive-through where no appointment is necessary on the Saturdays.
Is it still only one vaccine approved for youth? Or is it, what vaccines are approved for the youth?
Currently, the Pfizer is approved for 12 and up. Moderna and Pfizer have dropped to 18. And I believe Johnson & Johnson as well has dropped to 18, but for 12 and up is the Pfizer at the moment. Moderna is working on doing studies. And I'll just add that to the previous question, that at the Center for Family and Child Enrichment, we're also doing vaccines at our center. as well as offering out in the community if there are agencies or centers or places of employment that would like to have their location vaccinated. We're also available to do that as well. And you can go online to the Florida Department of Health and they have lists of places to be vaccinated as well.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kirwan. Dr. Lawrence, have there been any adverse effects for pregnant women that were vaccinated? I remember you touched on this because this is a big concern.
The vaccine is safe for pregnant women in any trimester, first, second, or third. Side effects are the same as with the rest of the general population, maybe soreness and redness at the injection site, fever, or some body aches that are very self-limited. But other than that, there are no serious side effects.
And maybe Dr. Kirwan, are there any discussions about adding the COVID vax to the infant vaccine schedule? I mean, we haven't heard of anything under 12 just yet, have we?
They've started trials. I think Moderna has started trials down to 6 months of age. Pfizer's, I know they're doing theirs in groups. So they're doing either 5 or 6 to 11 years old, 2 to 5 or 6 years old, and then 6 months to 2 years old. And I think they're trying to reach the 6th month of the lowest category. They're going in order, in decreasing order of age. And that 6 month to 2 year old category, they're trying to have all of the data, I believe, by October, November. And once they have the data that shows that it's the tolerability, the safety, and the efficacy of the vaccine, then they can move towards emergency authorization use for those younger generations. So there's no putting it on the infant vaccine schedule as yet. They need to do the research and gather the data and determine those things before they can actually do that.
And as a mother of a 13-year-old, I had my daughter vaccinated and she still is due for some other shots. How do you space out the vaccines and include the COVID vaccine in that schedule?
So initially, because there was no experience with COVID and other vaccines, they were hesitating and telling us to not combine vaccines in the same day. At this point, they have realized that it is safe to go ahead and vaccinate. So if you're doing your other vaccines and you need your COVID vaccine, it is okay to vaccinate. You don't need to space. And that is of great importance because with the decrease in visits last year, with people staying home, social distancing, the routine vaccines for children dropped dramatically. And so we do fear outbreaks of some of these other illnesses if we, measles, for instance, pertussis, if we don't get the routine vaccines in. So it is really good that we can now give the COVID and the rest of the vaccines together safely.
What a year for science. I don't think we've ever seen this much research.
And this quickly.
Yes, yes. Dr. Anan, I mean, there was concern at the beginning of the pandemic that, the youth are fine. And then we actually saw some youth passing away. And, also tied to pre-existing conditions and obesity. What are you stressing going forward as we're all looking at this live healthy, moving forward in this pandemic? Because some of our young people, have so much work to do.
So from the beginning of the pandemic itself, I actually do believe even until now that building immune system is the main thing at this point. So doing everything to have a healthy immune system, again, go back to the same idea of having that healthy or strong defense mechanism. Vitamin C, for example, vitamin E and A, those are important in building the immune system. Zinc, for example. I'm very for natural ways of building a system or actually obtaining vitamins and all these things. So, orange juice, I tell people old remedy is that ginger tea with honey and basically is fine. I do that all the time, 3-4 times a day. It's the best thing.
If you can get my kids to do ginger tea and honey, I'll write you a check. But if we can't get them to drink ginger tea and honey, are we giving them supplements?
Yes, so anything with vitamin C or zinc, these are proven to work. Also vitamin D, E, and A, as I said. So these are main things to do. Just of course being healthy, being active, eating healthy food, just making sure that taking all the precautions and every environment around us as well. So all these things are very important.
I think everybody's kid needs a virtual detox and a food detox after this pandemic. I see all the people everybody in the church say amen. Amen. That's right. What are some of your concerns are you hearing from your millennial patients as you go forward? Any of the doctors? I mean, because, you know, the older, we heard from our panel before, the older community got vaccinated. Are we still seeing a lot of young people coming in with COVID? I mean, parties are going on. If you look on social and everything else, they're still happening.
Yeah, so it's also the same thing that the concerns have always been also put on the table where mainly it's like, I still get the COVID vaccine, I get the vaccine, I still get the infection. There was many cases reported that way, and again, as I said, it doesn't mean you're never gonna have the infection, just like the flu. You can have the vaccine, you can get the vaccine, you get the infection, but the survival rate is much higher. Your body is much more prepared for that. The other thing was the reaction that happens after the vaccine. That was also another concern. Not, you know, the few days that you get of really feeling sick, until people, that's also how you know your body is, your immune system is working. This is having a fever is actually a good thing. You know, well, controlled fever, of course, but you know, having those body aches, having those symptoms, it actually doesn't give you COVID. You get COVID-like symptoms. And that's because the body also, you're training your troops, so you're having activity happening. They're gonna be sweating, they're gonna be, you know, doing all this work. So you are expected to have this local localized reaction. You're also gonna expect to have some systemic reactions. So that's all part of the process. But would you rather have it like this, or would you have it later with unknown outcomes? So that's one thing also to ask yourself.
Yeah. Part of all this too has been mental health. Like we've been talked a lot about how mental health is medical. What are your various centers doing to address the mental health needs coming out of this pandemic? And we've had a lot of losses in this pandemic for so many people.
So at CFCE, Center for Family and Child Enrichment, we have a very robust behavioral health department, 40 plus years in mental health with children, and our adult mental health is newer since we became an FQHC. We are seeing an increase in anxiety in children, increase in depression in children, increased suicide rates. So, you know, some of this can be contributed to COVID. So for us, you know, especially my patients who already were anxious or had depression, I'm really having conversations with the parents. You really need to keep an eye on them. You really need to be talking to them, keep them engaged in ways that you can with family, through FaceTime with family members that they may have been close to, grandma and grandpa, but they can't talk to. Having, you know, play dates maybe with another family who you know is adhering to safety measures and keeping a safe distance and trying to normalize as best possible, because the mental health trauma of COVID is very real and very significant. So that's mostly referring into our behavioral health department and making sure that conversation happens and normalizing as much as possible. I don't know if you.
At Jessie, Trice, we do have a behavioral health team holding very regular clinic hours, but in addition to that, on Saturdays at our drive-through vaccine events, the behavioral health team and the outreach team, they are available to help address any concerns that our clients may have. In addition to that, they are preparing to gear up in the fall within our school-based settings as well, because it has been announced that they're expecting to find out really the impact of some of the concerns that children may have with behavioral health. They're expecting that to tremendously increase.
Yeah, it certainly has been a rough year. I want to open it up now to anyone in our live audience who may have a question. Does anyone have a question? Maybe we can have someone come down with a mic and they hear your question, or I'll repeat it. Anybody has any questions? No? No questions from our live audience? No? It's okay. I think it's because our panel has it together and basically touch everything. Yeah, right? That's what's up. Dr. Kirwan, you wanted to add something?
I'll answer a question that I frequently get asked by
Good,
parents.
thank you.
If you go for it, care for that. So myocarditis and pericarditis, it's a concern with parents. They are trying to link there's talk of the vaccine being linked to pericarditis. And what is pericarditis? Myo meaning muscle, heart, itis, inflammation. So inflammation of the muscle of the heart. Peri meaning around, heart, itis, inflammation of the lining around the heart. So that's what those two illnesses are. And There have been several cases of, it's mostly young adults and teens, males, usually after the second dose of the vaccine, and usually within a 2 to 4 day period after the vaccine, who have developed myo or pericarditis. Symptoms: shortness of breath, palpitations, chest pain, and they obviously go to the hospital, may get hospitalized. The treatment is very brief, and so far it's been very brief, and it's been very minimal fluids, maybe some scans, some lab work, and then the illness passes very quickly. They have not proven that it is caused by the vaccine. There are some things that do make it look like it might be related to the vaccine, and that when they did studies of some of the young males that had it, the timing from the time they got the vaccine to when they developed symptoms, the clinical presentation and the laboratory presentation were all very similar in those cases. So there is a possibility, but then you also have to look at seasonality. The age and sex prevalence is males around that age, so there's some confusion there. Either way, the benefit far outweighs the risk of having myo or pericarditis when that treatment is a couple days, fluids, very easy, versus the treatment for COVID can be, anything up to a lung transplant,
How important is it that our kids get their well visits before they go back to school, especially if they've had COVID, especially if they play sports?
Okay, repeat the question.
How important is it for our kids to get back and have their well visits before especially if they've had COVID, to get out there and they're gonna get back to playing sports and all the, the things they would want to do?
True, very true. So yes, we do typically clear children before they can play a sport. And if they've had COVID and they've had myocarditis or heart issues, maybe we would like to get an EKG prior to clearing them. And we do want to do that physical exam because, we all hear about the long hauler symptoms, difficulty breathing, the chest pain, the things that can drag on. So we do want to make sure that kids are getting in. That, and kids have been missing in the doctor's offices over the last year as people have pulled away from, have gone more towards social distancing. So we are already behind. I know there's a lot of children that have not had their vaccines, not had their physicals, not been cleared for sports. And if you do have a child and you've not done that, I would urge you to start doing that now, because even without COVID, the delay in care, and a routine normal year, everybody's coming in at the end of July and early August. It's all packed in. So I would recommend you start now if you do need to do that.
And Dr. Lawrence, for adults to keep up with, they've stayed away from the health centers, they've stayed away from the doctors, and what about if they're dealing with long haul or post-COVID symptoms?
They've been reluctant to come into the doctor's office, despite the fact that we do have the telehealth visits. So those are things that they can still consider. It's very important. A lot of adults who have had COVID have the lingering symptoms and do need the follow-up and the long-term follow-up that will be required for them.
All right, let's give our panel a round of applause. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm on that show with doctors, except cooler. We have a raffle. Melissa, I heard you're drawing for the raffle. Oh yeah, Karen already pointed you out. You should text me first. She texted me first. We have a $50 gift certificate because living healthy has its benefits.
Yes. But how about if we draw it out just a little bit longer and do the campaign?
Yes.
And then we'll do the raffle.
Okay, all right, perfect. Let's talk about the Live Healthy Miami Gardens campaign. Who wants to address?
All right, so I'm coming up.
Oh, you're coming up to do that. I was like, did I skip? I'm so sorry. I got excited.
It's all right. It's all good.
All right, let's see.
Yeah. So, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm great.
All right, so I want to share with you, you've heard from our experts, our clinicians, folks that we work with every day to keep the city of Miami Gardens healthy. Well, part of what we do at MD Marketing Network is we create the tools and tell the story so that you would then go and see our providers to not only get your COVID vaccine, but also your flu shots. And of course, take a loved one to the doctor as well. So tonight, we are going to be previewing our new campaign. You heard about the research, you heard about how important it is for us to have messaging that really inspires and motivates people to not only go to the doctor, but to also get their right vaccine. So we're gonna preview tonight the I Did It campaign. So if you would roll the footage. And while we pull the footage up, let me introduce myself. My name is Melissa P. Dunn. I'm the CEO of MD Marketing Network, and my team and I handle the communications for Live Healthy Miami Gardens. We have been their partner in getting this work out into the community for a couple of years now. So it's actually one of my fun projects. I love doing this work, and so does my team. We're very passionate about it. Are we ready to go? All right, so why don't we do a raffle? Let's do the raffle. All right, the video gonna go. All right, come on, Karen, let's do the raffle. Are we ready? No.
The first is for the gift bag.
All right, so first we have a gift bag with a whole bunch of goodies. So Miss Nikki, why don't you pull? All right.
Number 3899654. And we have a winner.
All right, come on around. It is so good to see you. I know you're already committed to the Miami Gardens work. Thank you so much. Here you go. Always a winner. I love it. All right. Yeah, let's do the gift cards. We actually are giving away 2 gift cards, right? We're doing one for in person, and then we're going to give away the one for online.
All right.
3899651. The in person, I'll read it again. 3899651.
No?
Maybe they left.
Oh.
All right, listen. It pays to be in the room.
That's right.
3899652. I got the next one.
Yes, congratulations. Please come on up. All right, here you go, young man. Congratulations. Give him a round of applause, audience. All right, fantastic. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
All right, our online winners, Ingrid Moss was our first question of the evening. You win a gift card, and Maikita Cherry wins a Prime gift bag.
Oh, I love it.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Nikki. Well, congratulations to all of our winners. Fantastic. Are we ready, Natasha? Let's go. Play the video.
I did it.
That's right, I did it. I got my vaccine.
I did it. I did it.
I did it to hug my grandmother again.
I did it to keep me and my family safe.
I did it for mi familia.
I did it. I did it for my patients.
I did it.
I did it so I can start traveling again.
I did it!
I did it because I want to go dancing with my friends again.
I did it.
I did it for myself and the community.
I did it. Muertel Pumon Pam.
I did it to protect the community.
I did it.
That's right, I did it.
I did it.
I did it for my family and my community.
I did it for my children.
I did it so I could be safe.
I did it.
I did it. Will you join me?
To find out where you can do it too, go to livehealthymiamigardens.com.
Start traveling again.
I did it.
That's right, I did it. I got my vaccine.
I did it. I did it.
I did it to hug my grandmother again.
I did it to keep me and my family safe.
I did it for mi familia.
I did it. I did it for my patients.
I did it.
I did it so I can start traveling again.
I did it.
I did it because I want to go dancing with my friends again.
I did it.
I did it for myself and the community.
I did it. Muefel Pumunpam.
I did it to protect the community.
I did it.
That's right, I did it.
I did it. I did it for my family and my community.
I did it for my children.
I did it so I could be safe.
I did it.
I did it. Will you join me?
To find out where you can do it too, go to livehealthymiamigardens.com.
And we created our own I Did It campaign for the city of Miami Gardens. So I want to say thank you again to all of our partners for making it happen. Now, we'll have the video as a tool, right? So our providers will be sharing that on their social media channels. They'll also hopefully be playing it in their waiting room as, you know, to soften the conversation with folks who are there for regular appointments, so they can also ask to be vaccinated. In addition to that, we're going to be doing a social media campaign. What you're seeing here, okay, it was up and I was talking and now it went away. But what you're going to see is over 18 different types of looks. We're not going to show it? Okay, all right. So we also have different social media graphics that is going to have messaging that speaks to vaccine hesitancy. It's going to have messaging that speaks to how safe the COVID-19 vaccine is. And equally as important, it's going to show Miami Gardens faces. So we will have different residents, different influencers in our community who will be saying, I did it. And we'll need to do it too. And by the way, if you want to do it, go to livehealthymiamigardens.com/COVID-19, and there you will see all of our providers so that you can make an appointment and do it too. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the I Did It campaign, which will be rolling out tomorrow. You are actually the first to see it. So thank you for that. Right. I like it. I'm with it. We did our raffles. Were we still doing vaccines till 8 o'clock? No, I think everybody here is vaccinated, right? We'll see. Are we, Karen? Karen, are we doing vaccines here till 8 o'clock on site? If anyone wants to be vaccinated in the room, guess what? There's no better time than right now. Our team is here. They are ready. And yep, we're ready to go. Again, attendees are being presented with a prepackaged meal in accordance with our COVID safety on your way out. And we're happy that you were here today. Thank you so much, Dr. Anan, Dr. Kirwan, and Dr. Lawrence. We so appreciate you being here. And it has been my honor to be your MC. Live healthy, Miami Gardens. Let's get better and stronger and safer out of this pandemic. Have a good evening.